Of all these subscription services, the one to note out though is that the free ad supported. So Crackle is all free all the time and ad supported. All right, so cord cutters. What are these guys doing? So people that are cutting the cord, 2 out of 3 of them, so 62%, are going to replace their television subscriptions with streaming television devices. All right, so that's where Crackle sits way up high in this area. So that is an industry stat from ComScore. We actually had a study that we conducted year 2 with Magid, the new living room study. So that is where we asked an open-ended question: what will you replace your TV with if you cut the cord, and how will you watch TV shows and movies? And 2 out of 3 said they will replace it with a connected TV. So that really puts us in a very good position to move forward because, again, we are free streaming. All right, so let's take a look at some of our monthly uniques and some of the completion rates that we have. We are roughly across all devices and platforms kind of inching towards the 30 million mark, which is really fantastic for us. Those are numbers that are measured by ComScore, and that is across mobile, tablet, desktop, and also connected TV. And then our monthly streams are roughly about 175 million, so we'll talk a little bit more about how we're getting to those numbers. And then ad completion rates are about 95%. You might be asking yourself, wow, that's really high.
Yeah, are you
But
skippable?
no, we are not skippable. So you have to watch the ads.
Okay.
But because we have premium long form content, people are really eager to see our content. It's good content. There's Emmy Award nominated content. So people are willing to sit through those ads. And we don't bombard you with 15 ad pods per 20 minutes, and depending on the way the programming fits is how we kind of roll those out. So essentially, completion rates are very high, which speaks very high to the quality of the programming, that people actually will sit through the ads and they in order to complete the programming. And then as far as minutes per visitor, those have gone up to about 327 minutes on a monthly basis. We're seeing that number continue to go up because people are binging. They're coming in, and we're dropping all episodes at one time. So a season like Chosen, a show like Chosen will come in, people will watch sometimes 2-3 seasons, and they'll binge 10 to 13 episodes at a time. So we'll continue to see that go up. We've been toying with the model quite a bit. I think it's similar to what you might see on some of the streaming networks as well. All right, next up, we wanted to show you just a couple of case studies, actually. So there's one here from the consumer packaged goods category. We've got one from the auto category. We've got one from QSR, which has been a fantastic category for us. We've really been banging this one up because it really resonates very well with our audience. We've got a little bit skew on the male side, which we'll get into the numbers in a few minutes. So, and then something there from network television as well as a telecom partner. So what you'll see here is completion rates, which you saw that 95% on the last slide. This kind of gives you by these specific clients, and they've all agreed to allow us to share this data. Viewability is a big subject, and we'll get into a little of this a little bit later, and I'm certainly glad to ask questions because I know that those have been coming up on your RFPs. So we'll talk a little bit about our partnership with Moat, but we are 100% viewable in most instances, and a lot of questions come up, but we're not building a desktop business. We have our mobile tablet platform. We also have, of course, a connected TV business, and that is where we're focusing our efforts. And if you can imagine, like we're sitting here right now in a big room on this big screen TV, which looks like it's probably 50 plus inches, you don't have a viewability issue. Most of the viewability issues are coming from people coming in from websites where things are below the fold and it's not a full episode player. So that's why our numbers are so astounding, and our partnership with Moat is actually the first in the marketplace that is actually allowing you to measure viewability across connected TV. Nobody else can offer that. So in the past, we worked with you guys with Innovid. We had some problems this year. We addressed those. I think the tags were implemented, and the desktop portion was actually what brought your viewability down. But we have agreed, it looks like, this year moving forward into broadcast year 16 that we're going to look at Moat as a partner. So hopefully that should solve for that.
So
Do you have a question, Amanda?
Yeah, I was going to say, can we just then bill on 100% viewability?
No, we're not going to be billing on viewability right at this moment. We will give reporting, and there will be a slight uptick of probably in the 250 CPM range, but we will not yet be billing off of that. That's not an IAB standard, so we're not following that. I don't know if you've got partners out in the marketplace that are doing that. We'd certainly like to hear your feedback.
Yeah,
but good question.
Some of the networks. Yeah.
Okay, good question. And then brand lift, some of these you'll see click-through rates, which again we've been allowed to share, and then you'll also see some brand lift. So there were some research studies that were done along with those, and that's where that comes from. All right, so through part of the maggot study and through some other internal research that we did this year, we have identified our user as a recharger. So let me tell you a little bit about what a recharger is. We are definitely skewing a little bit high on the male side, so you'll see a 54% number there. 70% of our audience is 18 to 49. So that is very much in line with Toyota's demographic. I know that almost every RFP we receive from you guys is always adults 18 to 49. So that's a really great thing. And then the median age is a 28-year-old in the household. So these folks are young, they're affluent, they are college educated, they're very tech savvy. We do really well in the multicultural audience. So I know that you guys are, sometimes your RFPs will call out Hispanic or bilingual speaking folks, so we can certainly address that. And then the frequency that these people are, they come home, they're exhausted, they like to really kind of sit down, stream TVs and movies on a connected TV platform. So that is how we've identified the recharger. Any questions on the audience, just from a general perspective?
Is the guy in the top single?
Yeah, I actually think that he is. We have access to him, so we'll look into that one for you. Let's dive into our programming. I think you guys know most of this, but this continues to be built out. So what started as Grouper many, many years ago before Sony bought it and renamed it Crackle was very much at one point a library of Sony TV shows and Sony pictures. So things like Seinfeld, things in the Sony library, tons of Adam Sandler movies because of the Happy Madison production deal sitting here on the lot. The list goes on and on. But over time, as we've evolved, we have relationships now with almost all of the major studios and television networks. So big with NBC Universal, Lionsgate, Paramount deal has recently closed, Warner Brothers content coming in, Miramax is a partner as well. So about 65% of our content now is actually licensed outside of our own studio. So this year, as you guys know, because you sent a few folks from to New York for the upfronts, which we participated in, we decided for Crackle to pull out of the digital content new fronts, and we entered the television upfronts for the first time. So we really decided to play in the space that we are calling ourselves. We are streaming television. We are not a full linear experience, but we're a nice hybrid in between the two. So there's been a recent redesign of the connected TV, which we've launched on Roku 3 first. We will continue to roll out this redesign and this always-on experience, which I'm going to describe to you guys in just a moment, across all platforms and devices. And our hope is that by the end of 2015 this year, that will be the experience that you see across all those devices and platforms. So there's a little quick video here that I'm just going to talk over while this is playing, so you guys can kind of get an idea. The idea here is that from the moment you launch this app, that you come in, that just like television, when you come home, if you were to turn your TV on, that something's on. That programming is playing. So we're going to give you full control, continue to have control. We want you to come in. We want you to say, hey, I want to binge. I want to search. We're not taking that control away from you. That's why the tray will be there. But through the launch of our data management platform, which I will talk about in just a moment, we're going to know a lot about your user behavior and the type of content that you're viewing. And then, of course, through our third parties and second parties, we're going to know about the things that you're purchasing out in the marketplace and the things that you're doing. So we're going to be able to serve up content that's relevant to you for when you come in. And then we'll probably consider day parting as well. So maybe something is more episodic and 30 minutes in nature during the day, like a Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And then in the evening you come home and you turn it on and you might see a movie like Throwaways or maybe Dead Rising Watchtower because it's nighttime and you're going to sit down and you have 90 minutes and a little bit more time to maybe binge or watch something that's feature length. So we're very excited about those changes. Continue on that. You can now, everyone sort of defines the living room a little bit differently and all the connected devices in it, but you can find us in almost any living room, I would imagine. So most homes now and we'll get into the gaming console stuff when we get into the PlayStation to see how many homes actually have them, but gaming consoles, streaming consoles, smart TVs, and then of course we are still playing in the desktop and mobile tablet business, so we are across many mobile devices. One of our newest announcements was a partnership with Delta Airlines, so you can now see Sports Jeopardy and Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. I believe there's a series called Playing It Forward that we did a show in Vegas recently, or towards the end of last year. You can also see that. I've heard a couple folks actually on Delta Airlines recently and came back with some feedback for us there. So another thing you can do is you can actually, if you guys want to come in and device target because that's a specific need for you, if you only want to be on console, we can do that. So you can come in and you can buy. We've also recently taken back our Xbox inventory from the Xbox sales team, so we are the only people that can sell you that inventory in market. Any questions there before we move on? Okay, great. So what's in it for you? You're probably sitting there thinking, great, you've got all this stuff. Like, now how are we going to advertise with you? What's changed? One of the biggest things I think that we're going to talk about today is, and you'll hear this from ComScore as well, but we are the #1 rated free streaming TV ad product, okay, by ComScore. So we're really excited about that stat. One way to get involved, of course, is our original programming, which you guys have done very well with Chosen Season 3, and we're, of course, talking about Chosen 3 Season 4 for you guys as well. But then there's, of course, some things that we're launching that you guys should be aware of to help with our targeting efforts, so we'll probably jump into diving on those right now. I'll build this slide out really quick just so that you guys can understand. So who knows what a data management platform is? Probably everybody, hopefully, right? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
important.
So you want to increase your reach, basically, and we've been doing a lot of work with Nielsen and ComScore to try to understand how to do that. And I'll explain that in the next couple slides. But we have a relationship with Adobe, who's kind of managing the whole DMP. So that's where all the data is actually stored. And then we're working with Nielsen and ComScore on the back end to validate the audience and also the metrics that you'll see. So what it did to your advertising, basically, at the end. All right. So here's a little bit about how it works. So sitting in the middle here is Adobe and the data management platform. Then we've always, we have not had first-party registration data. So back in the day, I think, they weren't thinking about this from an advertising perspective when it's more of a content library on the grouper side, but we are now forcing registration so that we can collect first-party data. So basic demo and geo information so that we'll have that, and instead of having to use third-party data, we'll have first-party data. Then there's, of course, the second-party data, which comes from you guys. So advertisers supplying us with information from your consumer database. And then, of course, we still have our relationships with third parties like the Exalates of the world or the Blue Kais, who are able to supply us with, hey, I need a Latin-speaking male 18 to 49. But the beauty of this whole relationship is that, again, being able to measure on the back end over here through our FreeWheel ad server and then working with ComScore DAR product or Nielsen's VCE so that we can validate those audiences. All right? Incremental reach. So you will be able to, what we've studied with Nielsen is that you will be able to increase your reach to those hard to reach cord cutters by complementing your TV buy. So we understand that the core 18 to 49 demographic is still on television. We're not denying that. We're not telling you to stop spending on TV. In fact, we're telling you to keep doing what you're doing there. But what we're trying to show you here, and we can slice this data specifically for you against any specific demo or a TV show, is that if you complement and take away some of the frequency that you're using to buy on cable TV networks that are similar to the way that we program and curate Crackle, that you'll actually find somewhere in the 3 to 6% lift, especially on that hard to reach 18 to 34-year-old audience that's specifically cutting the cord. You'll be able to reach them incrementally by buying Crackle. Makes sense? Any questions on that?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, very good. So again, we can work with Nielsen to slice that up for you guys. So, all right, let's jump into the originals. We've talked a lot about Sony being the studio that is able to bring you all this type of wonderful content because we have the access to the talent, we have the access to the studio, and then of course we're the network, so we're programming and curating a channel much like you would see like an FX or an AMC or many other cable networks that you're out there watching this just now from a streaming television product perspective. So let's jump into how you guys can work with us early on in the process. You are well aware of this because you guys have done integrations. Again, we owe you an integration from this past year, and we're talking to your branded entertainment agency, Brandark, about what we're going to be focusing on in the next broadcast year, which starts in September. But we entice you to get involved early in the process. We have a lot of new shows coming out. So when we bring you these, they're oftentimes we don't have talent quite attached to. We don't always have scripts and storyboards and things like that. But we can get you involved very early on in the process. We want to make sure that every original that comes out that's targeting an adult 18 to 49 is something that we can put in front of Saatchi so that you see that every opportunity that's coming across. But here you're seeing some storyboards of a competitor to Toyota, so an Infinity, and this is actually, these are real storyboards from the show The Art of More, which we were telling you guys about a few months ago in a prior meeting. So Infinity has actually bought into the show, and they have a seamless integration into the program. They'll be the exclusive auto sponsor. So next, so we're going to go straight into talking about our shows. First up is Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, which is our flagship show from Jerry Seinfeld. This is now in its 6th season. So the show, I was actually down in Newport Beach this past weekend with one of my friend's mom, and I was telling her about this presentation I'm going to be giving next week, and started asking a few questions about what I do, and she has an Apple TV in her living room, and I said, well, have you ever used Crackle? And she goes, Scott, I know what Crackle is. She's like, told me that she loves to read the Wall Street Journal, and she sees all of our write-ups in Forbes and a lot of the press releases going on around some of our programs. I said, oh, well, what's your favorite show? And she said, well, Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, of course. She's like, I haven't toyed around with a lot of the movies and other original programs. Now, this is a 74-year-old woman. So Seinfeld still has a very relevant audience. The show has been nominated twice for Emmys. He has amazing talent on the show. I believe it airs weekly, and again, we're in season 6. So I know that there's several years lined up behind this contractually. Now, Acura, as you guys know, is still the main sponsor of the show, so there's not a specific advertising opportunity in there for you at this time. But of course, we will keep you posted should that change. All right, as we move on, we just on July 16th, a day early actually, our little guy David Spade pulled a little stunt on us and decided to launch the movie one night early to seed out across his social network feeds and what have you. But this is the first made-for-streaming television sequel from a major motion picture. So first time anyone's ever done that and released that to, again, a free ad-supported streaming product like Crackle. So the movie did gangbusters. It was the second installment. The original cast was back. So we had Christopher Walken, David Spade, Brittany Daniel, Patrick Warburton as well. So it's a Happy Madison production.
I don't remember this movie.
You don't remember the movie? Okay.
No.
You know, come on.
No.
Amanda, so David Spade plays this guy with a mullet, kind of like...
How long ago did it come out? Like 10 years ago?
I think 2000, so what is this, 2015, maybe 15 years ago.
I was only 15.
This is the
I was
fall.
only 10.
You were young, you
watch
might
it.
not have remembered. Anyway,
Yeah.
the movie has been a great success. We blew away our expectations, and we blew past the 1 million stream mark in 5 days. So there was a lot of press on that. There was an article written in the Hollywood Reporter. I believe the Variety picked it up, as well as a variety of other newspapers and magazines. So we're very excited about that. We will see if there's a part 3. I don't know exactly if those conversations are going on yet, but we're very excited about that. Next up, The Art of More. I just talked a little bit about that with you guys, and you know now that there's an Infinity that's going to actually be integrated. We're talking to other companies, packaged goods companies, about how to integrate products into this show. This is a big bet for Sony. I neglected to mention earlier that some of the production budgets on these originals that we're producing moving forward into this year and next year are upwards of $40 million. So when you're doing 10 episodes, you can do the math. It's $4 to $5 million an episode. This one is a big bet. We're hoping this to be our House of Cards. So of course, looking at things on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, everybody playing in this space. This one is going to have a great cast. These guys were all out for the Upfront in New York. So we had Dennis Quaid on stage. We had Kate Bosworth, Christian Cook, as well, who plays the lead of Graham Connor. And then Carrie Elways joined the cast recently as well. We've been filming up in Montreal. It's a 1-hour drama, 10 episodes, hoping to launch around November, December. The crux of this is that we're exploring the underbelly of the just sort of disrupt auction house world, if you will. So Graham Connor plays the lead character. He's an ex-soldier, and he is recruited to come in and sort of play this sort of good-looking character and running an auction house. And then there's this war between the two, and that's where Dennis Quaid's character comes in, and Kate Bosworth as well. Obviously, there's probably a love interest going on there. So we're very excited about that show. Again, look forward to that in calendar Q4. Super Mansion is our stop-motion claymation Going to be 13 episodes of these. This is Bryan Cranston, who you guys know from Breaking Bad very well. He's actually quite the comedian. Many people didn't know that because he's done so well in a drama and obviously an Emmy Award nominee and winner several times over, especially for the show. Super Mansion is from the creators Seth Green, Zeb Wells of Robot Chicken. You guys may know Robot Chicken from many years ago. Again, stop motion claymation. Those guys have teamed up. Bryan Cranston is the lead voice of a defunct superhero called Titanium Rex. They're part of the League of Freedom. These guys have he's working with a whole new team of superheroes who are entitled, and they're trying to save the mansion. So this show's a little raunchy. It is. It definitely has some, a little bit of foul language, other types of things that we had put this in front of Brand Arc, and they had some specific feedback on something like this just because of the raciness of it. Plus, the fact that it is stop motion and claymation, I think it gets a little bit tricky to integrate a car. Yeah. But we're actually talking to your sister partners over at Sinai right now, and they've got very interested in the show. Makes a lot of sense for a couple of the brands over there that they're launching next year. Yeah. Any questions on Super Mansion? We're excited about this one. Again, they're filming the last 2 episodes right now. I think it takes almost 8 to 10 hours to film about 10 minutes of footage. So there's a lot that goes into stop motion claymation. Of course, to have Bryan Cranston on board with these other Emmy Award winners, we're very excited about that. Next up is Sports Jeopardy, which we've done a lot of talking to you guys about. This show is on the air 52 weeks. We release 1 episode a week. We film a cluster of them at one time. It's hosted by the Emmy Award-winning Dan Patrick, who you'll know from ESPN, as well as his radio show that continues to be a hit success. There are unique ways to get integrated into this show. So even though it's very much a quiz show a la Jeopardy, also produced by Harry Friedman, who has had much success with both Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. We brought this show back for year 2. We'll start filming actually early next month in August, so next week. And then those will start to release in September. So a lot of excitement and hype around the show. They're playing with the format a little bit for season 2. And we'll see what that brings for you guys. And then a movie here for you guys that we released recently, and it actually did so well, Dead Rising Watchtower, which we made in conjunction with Legendary Films, who are the producers of the film 300 that you're probably familiar with. This released on sometime in March this year on Crackle. Jesse Metcalf was the star. Virginia Madsen was also in, I believe, and the movie was quite successful. It was a 90-minute feature, so we went ahead and greenlit the second installment. We haven't cast it yet, so we're not quite sure if Jesse's coming back. But big name talent involved, of course, and Lorenzo Di Bonaventura will continue on. We're excited to see what the next installment will be called, and hope to be bringing that to you. It is definitely very much a la the Capcom game that was very successful on Microsoft, so we had an Xbox exclusive window. This was a little bloody and gory for the folks over at Brand Arc, and I know that your brand is one that has to be a little bit careful of zombies, even though we've seen a lot of success with Hyundai and Walking Dead. Yeah. So this is one that we'll see how the next installment comes out before we'll get you guys the pitch, but I know there's some thoughts around blood and guts and possibly having a character fall out of the sky and hit a Toyota and ruin the windshield. So we'll be careful with that. And then, of course, Chosen, we want to talk to you about. Season 4 has been greenlit. We are waiting. We're currently waiting on a couple schedules. So we've got some casting to do. Chad Michael Murray hopefully will be back. We've had a little bit of scheduling conflicts with him, but this is the action thriller that you're very familiar with, where because you guys have had an integration inside of the show, but it's either kill or be killed. The first season was very successful with Milo Ventimiglia on board, who then stepped out, and then in season 2 and 3, we had Chad Michael Murray enter. Rose McGowan came into the 3rd season. The show's been really phenomenal, very successful, very much a suspense thriller. It's one, again, that you can sit down and binge episode after episode. And then Startup is one that we've just announced. So this show is in the process of being greenlit and being cast. It follows the underbelly of a startup and what you go through to get funding. And there's an ex-convict whose father was in the mob, and then he teams up with a couple other folks. One is a tech whiz, and one is a money launderer, and they all want a piece of the American dream. They're all trying to to make it big in the startup world. Anything from the stock going public, but they start stepping all over each other and realize, along the way, how the underbelly of that world in Miami can be a very rough scene. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. A little bit more information again. We're doing some casting, finding out when that'll launch. It'll probably be sometime in 2016. So just to wrap things up on Crackle before we move into PlayStation, a very hard to reach audience is one now cutting the cord. So we just want to reiterate to you guys, come to us. Let us help you find that incremental reach that we talked about. We'll pull the numbers with Nielsen and ComScore, and then use the Adobe data management platform to find that incremental reach. And then, we're going to talk next about PlayStation and some of the originals there, as well as the products there. So, but all of this plays into the family, and the increased reach goes from 27 million to basically 87 million, because you got 60 plus million on PlayStation as well, registered users. So any questions, anything that we can wrap up before we move on to PlayStation? You guys good?
I think so.
Questions from your end over here, Rob? All right, great. I'm going to pause.